Los Angeles band filling summer days with their new psychedelic rock record, Phantom Idol. You may know them from their song Tandy. Please welcome Brandon and Shane from Dream Faces to the podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good, thank you.
Good.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks
having
for having
us.
us.
Yeah,
How,
yeah, of course. Brandon, you're here with the video. Shane, we have you on audio. Technical difficulties. We've gone through this intro a couple times from other difficulties, but we're finally here talking about it. I'm excited to get to know you guys a bit more, hear about this new record, everything like that. So yeah, if as long as you're ready, let's get right into it.
yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so Brandon, while talking about the album, you said that like you guys got a lot more collaborative with this in terms of like songwriting and just general like creation for the album. Did that like change the creative process you guys normally have at all, or what effect did it have on like your normal process of coming up with music?
Yeah, this definitely was a much more collaborative album. It's kind of been an evolving thing from the beginning with Dream Phases because it kind of started as more of like a songwriting solo project for myself, and with each release we've done, it's become more of a collaboration between the band members. So with this one, yeah, we have like the most co-writes on it. Pretty much a lot of the songs from the beginning were kind of fleshed out together. And yeah, there's I think almost half the album is either co-written or one or two of us wrote things together.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And for this album, like in general, like message wise, sound wise, if there's someone who hasn't listened to it yet, how would you like describe the general mood or feeling of the album?
Um, I feel like it has a lot to do with kind of self-reflection, viewing like past relationships, just a lot of introspective kind of qualities. And I think that was heavily influenced still by coming out of the pandemic, even though this record was written and recorded sort of towards the tail end of it. And our last album, New Distractions, was written like right in the middle of the pandemic when we were all still isolating. But I think there's a lot of commentary on just kind of like re-immersing ourselves back into society and kind of having things pick up as business as usual as they were before that. You know, I think a lot of people I've talked to, and myself included, had a lot of time of like yeah, exactly like self-discovery and self-reflection during that period of isolation. So I think there's a kind of an intense introspective quality to a lot of the songs. And then there's other things too of there's a good amount of like escapism and sort of like not fantastical, but sort of fantastical, just like escapist songs on the album as well. Just kind of imagining yourself in a different place and different at a different time, pretty much.
Yeah, awesome. And with like you mentioned writing a lot of it in the pandemic, what was that like? Because obviously there was like a bunch of restrictions. You're not like as like interpersonal, you're not in person as much. So what was that process kind of like? Was it a lot of like sending things back and forth online, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, it was a lot of that. And it was sort of carried over from our last album, New Distractions, because when we did that one, we completely were isolated from each other and we were sending demos back and forth and just kind of fleshing them out at home. And we ultimately ended up doing that album completely ourselves. Shane ended up mixing it. And with this one, I feel like it was kind of a combination of being in person and sending things back and forth because by the time we started writing this, the restrictions had kind of opened up a little bit, and we were getting together a bit, but we kind of carried over where we were sending ideas back and forth. And I know Shane and I like got together several times to write, and I think Kaveen did as well. So there was a combination of that and sending things back and forth to kind of flesh them out. And then once we kind of had the ideas, we always typically demo songs ourselves because we all have like home studios or at least setups to record some stuff. So
Yeah.
we did all that. Then we went and rehearsed the songs, and then ultimately we went into a studio and re-recorded everything properly.
Yeah, awesome. And like just with more of reading about it, hearing you guys talk about it, you were saying that it's probably the closest it's been from like initial idea or like what you imagine it to the final product and having
Hmm.
that not change a bunch throughout the process. And when I was like reading up more on it and looking through the credits, you have some amazing producers on here who have worked with like, huge names. How
Hmm.
much was it that like production collaboration that kept that style or that initial sound in place, or was there any like real clear effort to keep it the same way?
Well, so when we did have the songs completely written and fleshed out pretty well on our original demos before we went into the studio, and when we did go to the studio, I think the idea with the fact that we think this came the closest to what we idealized our sound as was because really it came down to the producers and their production and getting like the sounds that we necessarily couldn't do on our own. So in terms of the songs, most of them stayed pretty much the same in terms of like, the structures, the chord progressions, melody, lyrics. We didn't really change much of that when we got into the studio with the producers, but it was really refining the actual sounds, like the sounds of the drums, the sounds of the guitars, synthesizers, vocals, all that kind of stuff. Like that's where we kind of feel like the whole thing got elevated and just with the history, the knowledge and the experience and the respect that we have for the people that we worked with, the producers we worked with on it, it just elevated everything to, where we really wanted it to be. So I guess sonically is where, the producers really came in to play.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. And I mean, I mentioned it in the intro, but you guys are like from Los Angeles, big like
Mhm.
California focused band. I go to school out in California, and I have a friend who's a fan of you guys. I brought up that I was
Oh,
having you on,
cool.
and he was like, "Yeah, that's awesome." So,
Nice.
how much is like a California identity or a love for California like present in the band or in your songs?
But it's pretty big, and I feel like it's something not necessarily brand new that we've kind of self-identified with, but it is something that I think we've just kind of how do you put it? It's just something that we realized was our identity, especially after, doing a lot of touring and traveling a lot and kind of just going around the world and the country and hearing a lot of people's feedback about like, wow, you guys have a Los Angeles sound or you guys are, California vibes, blah, 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 which we really appreciate because a lot of the stuff that we grew up listening to was like the Beach Boys and the Byrds and the Doors
Yeah,
and a lot of these bands, all the way up until present, like bands like Autolux, there's a sound kind of here, and on top of that, we're in the entertainment capital of the world with the film industry, and it's just something that I do feel really close at home at because Shane and I are brothers. We were born in California here in Southern California, and I don't think we can just escape the fact that this is a big part of our identity, and we're happy to own that.
yeah, no, awesome. And it is like I was about to ask like inspirations that you guys had and things like that, and wondering how West Coast sounding they were. And so it
Hmm.
makes sense. I hear like those hints of inspirations coming out in the music. And you mentioned it there, like obviously the two of you are brothers in this
Hmm.
band together. How does that like sibling dynamic work, or how do you balance that with like the working together musically or in a band setting?
Want to take that one, Shane?
Well, I think we've been playing music together well over like about 15 years now, and we've grown a lot, matured together. There's a special synergy of just being siblings and playing music together. I think we just connect to naturally musically one another, and we could finish each other's phrases, and it's just a lot of fun to create being brothers. There's a special chemistry there.
Yeah, awesome. I'm sure creatively there's a lot of just like if one of you can't find the words, just like knowing what they're trying to express or knowing the saying, then probably a lot of understanding between the two of you.
Hmm.
And in terms of, back to Phantom Idol, this album, I know for a lot of bands or artists, like cover art is a big thing for them and it holds a lot of weight. What went into designing the art for Phantom Idol?
Well, yeah, I mean, first off, to touch on what you're saying, yeah, the art is always super important to us and something that we take into heavy consideration. And this time around, we wanted to work with someone. We actually had an artist that we worked with almost exclusively for the first couple releases and videos and everything. And unfortunately, he passed away late last year. And there was definitely like when the band started, there was a heavy consideration of having a visual identity that matched the music right from the get-go. So we worked with our friend Richard that I was just mentioning for a long time, and then we did branch out in the last couple of years and start working with some other people just to kind of then evolve as the sound was evolving as well. Um, but anyway, for this particular album, we worked with an artist named Asuka Watanabe, who's a Tokyo-based designer and illustrator, and it was just a real lucky find on our end because we were just searching artists on Instagram through hashtags, and we came across a couple artists we really liked. We messaged them, and Asuka was the one that we connected with through that. And yeah, we absolutely love the design that she ended up coming up with. Um, I think we just sent a couple real basic ideas that we were kind of influenced by, like whenever we record our records, like I was mentioning before, we do like demo albums essentially of them beforehand. And
Hmm.
I had like a placeholder piece of art that was attached to all the MP3s that we were sending back. And I think I just sent her that, but I was like, this is just a kind of an idea, but do whatever, whatever inspires you after you listen to the music. And the cover is what she came back with. And yeah, we were really stoked on it.
Yeah, that was awesome. And so, how much like change was there between that demo album version of the art and this new finalized version?
I mean, it's quite a bit different. I think maybe the colors and just the overall abstract. I mean, I'll just say, I mean, the original demo one was like a Henry Matisse painting that I just like. Obviously, we can't use that, or I don't know
Yeah,
how we'd go about using something like that. But I think we were just basically like use colors and shapes for this one and have something a little bit more abstract. So that was pretty much the whole
nailed
instruction.
it.
Yeah, it's quite a bit different than the one that we had, but it's amazing. We love
Yeah,
it.
it's just like a placeholder inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And hearing like colors and shapes and all that and knowing what the final art looks like it really is that. Like it probably now obviously being influenced by it, but something like that comes to mind when I just like try to think of something new or original, or I have a blank canvas and
Yeah,
I'm thinking of colors, shapes, like this whole abstract like almost like tapestry looking thing like really
Hmm.
comes up. Hey, it's Heroek, and this episode is sponsored by me. Well, kind of. If you don't know, I recently started a clothing line called Quest Clothing, which you can shop right now. I'll leave some pictures here on the screen, but we got the core collection, which is just this sleek black and white design on a bunch of products. And then we also have some more like merch style stuff with cover arts for my songs and things like that. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I'm really excited that I now have it. And so expect a lot more collections, a lot more designs coming out soon. I'll leave a link to it down below, and if you want to stay up to date with any new releases or anything like that, follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram. So go get cool designs like this, or even this, and you'll be helping me support all of this, the podcast, the music, everything. Plus, it just looks cool. We even got this nice big letter design on the back. Look at that. Look how cool that looks. So head to the link in the description to get yourself some Quest clothing, and make sure to follow at Shop Quest Clothing on Instagram for updates with new collections and stuff like that. And now, back to the episode.
yeah. I think
Absolutely.
Asuka's artwork helped capture like the unique world of Phantom Idol because there's quite a lot of variation on there, but the whole album really flows nicely as a whole piece.
I'm wondering, Shane, there you said like the whole world of an album. Do you guys picture like worlds or certain like settings for these albums, or have like pictures and things come to mind when you're making the music?
Well, I think kind of just metaphorically world as in like world that our music lives in, like where
Yeah,
we draw our creative inspirations from and you know.
yeah, awesome.
But I would just to add on to that, I would say yes to that because we definitely are very influenced by visual art and cinema as well and photography, all different types of art. So it definitely like certain songs I think are very influenced by visuals. And
For sure.
ultimately, yes, it does. There's a combination of synergy between those there. So with this particular one too, even though maybe Matisse was the original inspiration, or at least for us, that we sent to Asuka, part of that was also doing something a little bit more abstract and modern, not only for the music but also with the art. And I think one of the things of working with a producer on this one too was we were trying to change the sonics and the overall sound of the album. And every song on the album, we definitely come from a place where it's a collection of songs that fit together as a unit, as opposed to just random singles or things like that. So the overall connectedness of everything is really important to us.
Hmm. Hmm. And it seems like I'm guessing, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but like the getting the track list right or like order of songs kind of helps with that cohesion and everything like that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we
Yeah.
played around with a tremendous amount of different possibilities for the track order, sent them to friends, got a lot of feedback on that. And there are songs too that didn't make it onto the album. Like when we make our like original demos, I think for both of the last albums, we probably had close to 20 songs, and then we whittle
Oh,
it
wow.
down. And
Yeah.
it's not even necessarily that we feel always like, oh, these are the 12 best songs, not necessarily thinking about it that way. It's, very much like what works together. You don't want songs that necessarily sound too similar because you
Yeah.
want each one to be its own thing. But ultimately, you're like, this could be a single, but it doesn't necessarily fit. So it's not always like, oh, the catchiest or the best. It's just what flows the best with this other batch of songs. It's almost like a book in chapters. It's like how do you fit a narrative together in an album structure?
Yeah. So in terms of like one-off songs or anything like that, are these songs that maybe don't make the cut for an album, is there ever a chance that they like get released later on as maybe their own thing or a part of another album, or is it just like part of the process that they're gonna like kind of get shelved?
Oh, it's going to be both for sure. I think we did actually go through and listen to like the leftover songs from New Distractions for this one, and I don't think we actually did pick any for this particular one, but there's always a chance for them. And we also created that Mr. Midnight series, which is it's listed as an album in our discography, and it is, but it's really more of like a compilation, a collection of like demos and outtakes. Because what we did actually want to do, and what we still plan on doing, is kind of putting out these compilations or EPs, whatever it might be, in between like the main albums, and that could be comprised of like either more experimental stuff or leftover songs or things that maybe don't fit onto the next album per se.
Yeah.
So there's always a
Awesome.
chance for them. We don't want
Yeah,
to
no,
keep them orphans forever.
I think that's great. I think like I almost now that you're saying it, wish that other like big artists and albums or artists and bands did that and came out with albums of like almost the unreleased stuff and things
Hmm.
like that or what goes into the process of making it and things that maybe didn't make the cut because it like it almost just gives an inside look of like the creative process or
Hmm.
things like that. And like, who knows, maybe something that you guys didn't love the most or didn't love the most or didn't fit very well into the album, like fans love it and they think it's awesome and things like that. So it's really like you never know.
Yeah, you never know. And it's funny that you
Right.
mentioned that, because one of the songs that seems to be getting the most plays right now on our Spotify is a song called Wonder Boys, which is from that Mr. Midnight Volume 1 compilation. And it's just
Awesome.
a really, really old demo. It actually dates way back before the band even formed. It was actually a demo for our old band. And for whatever reason, that's like our number one stream song on Spotify right now. So exactly. You never know what's going to happen to these songs or what kind of life they might take on.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. And
You
and so
never know what
going
the Spotify algorithm's going to pick up.
yeah. And so going back in time almost like clearly you guys are brothers, you've known each other probably longer than almost anybody. You clearly have past band experience, like you were saying, going all the way back to like growing up. Was it for both of you, I guess, like was music like the thing you wanted to do, or were there any other like dreams or passions that you guys had?
For me, ever since I was a teenager, music is what I wanted to do.
Hmm.
I definitely was influenced by my brother because he started playing music a little bit earlier than me and started playing in bands before me and started introducing me to all these cool like indie alternative bands that I probably wouldn't have discovered for a few more years later on if it weren't for his influence. Bands
Yeah,
like
awesome.
Nirvana, Pixies, Sonic Youth, and Stereo Lab, Dinosaur Jr. You know.
Yeah, classics. And Brandon, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the best way for me to put it is, I mean, I definitely have a lot of interests and things, and I changed my
Yeah.
major in college many times, but it was just like music was the no-brainer like the entire time. It was like I'm always going to be doing music, but then there's other passions, or maybe I should do this or that. So, there's definitely some other things. I really love film, for example, and yeah, there's a couple other things, a lot of art that is very inspiring, or writing even, but it's
But also
every
very creative stuff, it seems like.
yeah, I
Yeah.
typically I guess I tend to be yeah, I want to fill
Yeah.
my time more with those kind of endeavors, but music's
We're
always
both
there, and it's always going to be like I guess yeah, the main thing I can't really turn my back on.
we're both really into film and art and going to museums and things, reading.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We-
And
We've
I'm sure
we've
that
always done a lot of research to kind of discover bands that we wanted to find out about, especially when like all music was more active and stuff. We'd find out about an artist and go to the any record store in any city we're in to try to find new music and discover whatever.
yeah, awesome. And I'm sure that just like helps inspire the music even more. Because like I know for myself, I'm starting to get into music production. Hopefully I want to get go into that space one day. And it's like I take
Nice.
inspiration from random movies that I see, video games I play, things like that,
Hmm.
and they just like at the most random times it seems like inspire me to try something new or put something in there. So
Sure, yeah.
yeah, you never know
Yeah.
where inspiration's coming from.
That's right.
No, yeah, I think if anything creatively in any kind of medium possible, just ties into your art as a whole, whether it's creating music or painting or working on a film or anything.
Hey, if you're like me and you're interested in the YouTube or creator space, you should check out The Publish Press. The Publish Press is a completely free newsletter founded by YouTubers Colin and Samir. They host their own podcast talking to some of YouTube's largest creators. They've edited some of the best content I've seen on YouTube, and now they're sharing their knowledge about the YouTube space with you for free. The Publish Press comes out 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, with everything going on with your favorite creators and platforms. And like I said, it's completely free. Just enter your email address to receive the Publish Press whenever it comes out, and that's it. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description below, sign up to the Publish Press, and get all the info you need on the industry. Going back with all this years of band experience, both Dream Faces and otherwise, what tips or advice would you give to like other bands who are like starting out now, or maybe they're like prepping for their first release?
Yeah, I guess like the best advice I could say is just to continue doing what you're doing, and you know, if your love for the music and the passion is so well, how did I put it? Um, I guess just the most important thing is just to love what you're doing and feel really, feel as strong as you can about what you're doing, and work as hard as you can on it, and just continue creating, and try not to have too many distractions or worry about, what people are going to think, or what, quote unquote success you might have out of it. Just do the best work that you can, and everything else will kind of come as you continue, I think.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think, make some art that is genuine to you and represents who you are as a person or as a group, and have fun, but also try to take it somewhat seriously, and don't let people take advantage of you. And definitely when you're starting out, don't do pay to play shows where you have to sell a certain amount of tickets. That's not going to lead you anywhere. It's just going to be a random lineup. It's like the more and more you do it, the more you realize how strategic you have to be with it.
Yeah, that's something I've heard from multiple bands of like beware for the pay and play and things like that because it seems like from everybody I talk to that it's always like negative experiences, and so I'm still surprised by like how much I hear them happening around me in real life and so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important now and at the beginning, whenever is, surround yourself with the right people, and, chemistry is always key. Um, try not to get discouraged. I mean, it's one of those things with a lot of different things in life that like, I think you have your goals, and then you attain a goal, and then it opens up like 10 more things that you're then working towards, and it just
Yeah.
kind of continues that way. So yeah, I think it's good to have like little goals that are leading to whatever someone's ultimate goal might be. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I think the most important thing is just to try to make the best music that you can, and ultimately you're trying to make the music that you really want to listen to as a listener.
Yeah. Awesome. And once you guys started Dream Phases, where it became more collaborative and things like that, where does that name come from? Dream Phases.
Well, it was sort of meant to be like an open-ended name, and it kind of played on the music that we were making at the time, which was supposed to be a little bit more, like dreamy rock music,
Yeah.
influenced by psychedelia, stuff like that. But it also just kind of has to do with how our shifting and changing dreams throughout life are kind of different phases, where we go through different phases in our lives. And, we as people change, everything kind of changes around us. And we're kind of chasing our dreams and aspirations through all of that.
Yeah. Awesome. And through all that, through all these phases and changes of life, has there been a moment that really made you guys like second guess or question a music career or this band or things like that? Or have you always been pretty confident in what you're doing?
No, I think, and I'm sure a lot of like people that I know will test it. I think that everybody kind of has their doubts or their moments of why am I doing this? What am I doing? As many points as many times of joy that you might get out of like pursuing music as a career or a band. There's obviously a lot of moments of kind of heartbreak and disappointment. And I think it all just goes back to you're doing this because you love it and you're just trying to make great music, and then everything else is kind of secondary to that. I mean, obviously outside of like health and family and more important things. But yeah, I think it's totally normal, and there's been many moments where you're kind of like, what am I doing? Not like, oh, I'm going to stop doing music or I'm going to stop pursuing music, but yeah, there's definitely moments of frustration. But
Yeah.
ultimately,
Mm,
I think you can work through those things, and you just continue creating new music and have that be your main focus.
yeah, I think probably no matter what you're doing, there's always like some level of those thoughts and those doubts and things like
Sure.
that. And I think it's just a matter of like continuing on despite them or
Yeah.
with them through them, however you want to say it. But like don't let it stop you or just keep going with it.
Yeah, and I mean, being pursuing music or any sort of like, entertainment field like that, the work it's not consistent, and money might not be consistent, and it's perfectly okay to have another job or to do, to have your income come in this way or that way, or there's also a lot of ways I think to generate like financial stability, for example. Because I think, a lot of times finances have a big part to do with people's doubt, and obviously we have to survive and pay our rent and feed ourselves and our families, and of course, that sort of thing. But I think we're also living in a really creative time right now where there's all these new ways to get your music out there, through social media, through YouTube, through partnering with like brands that you like to create content. I mean, there's a lot of ways that are still, I think, unexplored or just barely at the beginning right now. So um yeah, I know I'm kind of going off a tangent, but uh
No, no worries. That's what like podcasts or general like long form things are for.
right, right. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, just to get back to your thing, I think it's, you're just creating because that's what you need to do and that's what you love to do. And you figure out the other stuff as you encounter them. And especially starting off, something that maybe seems like a really big deal when you're first starting off, maybe you learn how to deal with, and then it's just a really minor thing as your career or your journey continues, and then you face something else that you have to figure out as you go on further. All the while, you're hopefully, growing as a musician and as a writer and developing through all these. I mean, a lot of I think inspiration actually will come also from doubt, because you figure out it's problem solving. You figure out how to get on something, and then maybe you have a new skill or something new to express when you get to that next side.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I was actually the episode before this, I was talking with a band called La Cibu Grand, if you know them, and like they have a new album called Triggered, and that's basically the message of the album. It's like the first couple songs are about like doubts or mental illness issues and things like that, and getting
Hmm.
triggered, and the second half is like going through the process of learning about coping mechanisms and how to get through that and like deal with it and live with it. And so it's a super important message.
Hmm.
That you guys
Right.
have.
Yeah. I was going to touch in. Definitely from my perspective, sometimes it's easy to get jaded with the music industry when you work really hard and invest a lot in a release and it doesn't go as far as you would like it to. But the best way for me to get over that is just to be writing these songs, get really excited about that. You know, the music
Yeah.
industry is separate from the art. You know, it's like, of course, you want to like be a part of it, but at the end of the day, you're doing it because you love art and you're passionate about it. You can't see yourself doing anything else. That's what really matters. You find
Yeah.
other ways to hear about it.
Yeah. Almost like not as dismissive, but almost like an on to the next mentality of just like keep creating, keep working at it. And even if it's not finding like commercial success or things like that, or however you define success, even if it's not at that level, like as long as it's you have a passion for it, as long as you're happy, that's probably like top of the pyramid, like top priority. Um,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
once you release your baby into the world, there's nothing you can do to make it better. It's already there for people to judge and appreciate love. So now you just work on creating your next piece of art.
yeah, yeah, awesome. Are you a music artist trying to find a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible? Then check out DistroKid. DistroKid is a super user-friendly and super easy-to-use service that will make your music available in stores like Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube, Snapchat, everything. Everything you could imagine, it's available. People will even be able to add your songs into their Instagram stories. DistroKid helps you with the distribution, monetization, and promotion of all of your music. Use the link in the description of this video for 7% off any DistroKid package you want. Pick from musician packages designed to help artists get their own music out there, or even get a label package where you can manage up to 100 artists from one profile. So that's more for like managers, labels, and you can also get the musician package that I mentioned earlier, which is more for artists, producers, things like that. It's super easy, and you can get 7% off any package right now with the link in the description of this video. So once again, if you're looking for a way to get your music on as many streaming platforms as possible, I'm talking any platform you can think of, get DistroKid and get 7% off right now with the link in the description. Back to the program. I'm curious, like because it seems like you guys really have a like passion, or you're really dedicated to making like the best art and music that you can. And nowadays with like all of these like short form promotions and TikToks and things like that, it seems like everything in the music industry is almost on like 2x speed or just going super fast and things like that. And
Hmm.
it's almost hard to keep up. Just I'm curious as to like your thoughts on the general like music industry in general today. So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we operate a little bit out of that. I mean, honestly,
yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
that's
in
passing.
a good way.
I mean, it's just like, I mean, we dip our toes into that world, but yeah, I don't really necessarily know if it's a strength of ours or something that we're particularly that concerned with. I see, the value of it, and I see that that is what's happening. But I mean, in the way that we use it, we mostly use social media just to like promote our shows or to promote our releases, which is a lot of what people are doing. But I know we could take it a lot further and create a lot more content and do different things. But I don't know like how
It's turned
motivated.
into like it's turned from like making a post about a show you have to coming up to like
Yeah,
almost an entire like online campaign for a single show, and it's like
right,
it's just putting in so much time and effort that it seems
right,
like you guys and me too, like I don't want to put in that much time and effort to something that's
right.
not the main
Yeah.
thing.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, we're like in our mid to late 30s now, and like to try to like come up with video content on TikTok, it's still so forced and contrived. It doesn't feel natural. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we're used to bands, just putting out cool videos on YouTube or something, or word of mouth promotion, just playing shows with other like-minded bands and have a cool vibe. It's like now you have to create like an ad or something to get your music out there. It's necessary, but it's definitely like you have to grow into it,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I also
adapt to
just
it.
I think for us too, like it's not like we're resistant or trying to turn our backs on using things like TikTok or social media. But for us, I think it's just if we're going to put up content, it needs to be something that we can endorse and get behind. It's not just creating stuff just to have a post every single day, or we're not. There's enough crap out there that we don't necessarily need to just contribute more of it.
Yeah.
I mean, if we come up with like ideas that we think are neat or something, then we'll put some stuff up. We're working on a couple of things right now that will come out to continue promoting the album, but things that we hope,
Things that
people
you
find
wanted to do and not
interesting.
you felt
Yeah.
like you should do.
Yeah, and definitely I still believe in, quality over quantity. So we might take a longer to put things out or to come up with stuff, but hopefully it's stuff that people will find interesting when we do. Because it is a great tool. And I mean, there's a lot of people that will be able to discover you through things like TikTok or Instagram or YouTube, a lot more than would just by word of mouth, obviously, or through grassroots. So there's a lot of, strengths and value to it. We just guess we're still just trying to figure out how to navigate it ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. And with like I guess just the band or your guys' career in general, is there any overarching message you would want to send to people or anything like that? Or are all your messages kind of put into like albums and songs and things like that?
Uh yeah, I mean I think that's an evolving and changing thing. I mean, on a basic level, I hope that the message one of the messages is to inspire people, hopefully, to explore themselves and through that, into whatever they're doing musically or creating. I definitely think that we're a band that hopefully is a bit more on the optimistic side. I mean, it's probably pretty obvious, but a band like the Beatles are, at the top of our list of all time. And, I think
Yeah.
we really appreciate the fact that their whole message was love and acceptance and, just positivity in general. You can almost there's obviously like breakup relationship songs and there's some dark moments in there, but 95% of it is very positive. And it's not like we're trying to be like a happy-go-lucky thing or say, oh, it's all good or stuff like that. But I do hope that there's more of like a positivity or a feeling of connection. I know in a lot of the earlier stuff, there's a lot of commentary on feeling lonely and feeling isolated and things like that. So hopefully there's a connection where when some of the stuff that we put out, hopefully there's a message of you're not alone and there's other people
Yeah.
like you out there. Yeah, love and acceptance and positivity and things like that are going to be the
Yeah.
overarching
Awesome.
themes.
And I'm curious also, like we talked or you mentioned it earlier, like Wonder Boy's kind of taking off out of nowhere when it was part of this like almost like Mr. Midnight as like a Misfits kind of thing or like an in-between
Hmm.
project. And I'm curious for another song you have, Tandy, that's like taken off, one of your most popular on
Hmm.
Spotify. Was that something else that like you didn't expect much and it took off, or did you like have a feeling in while making it that like okay, this has something to it, this has something special?
Well, I mean, I guess I didn't necessarily think that at the time, just
Yeah,
because that so when we did Tandy, that was for like a 7-inch 45 with a label called Hypnotic Bridge here, and the A side of that was Helen Highway, and Tandy was the B side, and both songs have done pretty well, fortunately, knock on wood. But the idea with those songs were to write singles, sort of in a classic like 60s 70s like both of these songs could be played by like a DJ. It's very much like trying to write catchy like single kind of songs. when we were writing them, I honestly don't think there was any consideration beyond that. I didn't necessarily think, oh, this one is going to be it, guys, you know.
Yeah.
It was just really trying to write a song that would be like a single that like a DJ could play. So I'm very
Yeah, and
happy. I'm very happy that
apparently
people
you
will dig
nailed
them, but well,
it.
thank you.
And yeah, yeah, and it is funny. I feel like that's very rare when someone like has an optimistic feeling of like, oh, this is the one, and it actually ends up being the one. If anything, it's like just as common for someone to have a song that they're like kind of just putting in an album as filler and it takes off and things like that. And so I'm always
Yeah.
curious, like from the band or artist perspective, like some of their bigger songs, how they felt about it when it was first coming
So,
up. And
I mean, every song we put out, this is the one, man. You know?
yeah, yeah, exactly. You have this like delusional optimism of like, this is the one, this is the one. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
that wasn't the one, but this next one's the one.
And I mean, I
No,
could
yeah, but
definitely
Tandy and Howard Howard is definitely meant to be singles, so I'm glad they were received well.
Well,
Yeah,
there's the opposite that too is that I definitely have felt that there were some special songs on some of our albums that like didn't really get any attention or very many plays or anything like that. So it definitely goes both ways.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, obviously the answer may change for each of you, but for Dream Faces, if you got this like dream opportunity to collaborate with any song or with any artist or band on a song together, who would you guys want to collaborate with?
Like right now, like if
Man,
it like a possibility.
Yeah, like right now, if someone came up to you and was like, "Hey, I have this like this golden ticket, you get a pick any artist or band, make a song with them." Like, who would you guys want to work with?
Well, right now, I mean, I'm just gonna not overthink it. I'm just gonna kind of go with my first instinct. But like one
Yeah,
of my favorite modern bands is the War on Drugs. So I've
awesome. Yeah,
absolutely loved their last couple albums, and I think Sean Everett is their producer. So I mean, that would be an amazing thing to be able
yeah,
to do something together with those guys.
I was actually thinking Sean Avery, even though he's not as a band, but just him as a producer would be really cool. And
awesome.
also, maybe potentially Jeff Tweedy. We're a big fan of Wilco, so I think that would be
Hmm.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys clearly are on similar wavelengths, similar taste in music. It's awesome.
Thank
And
you.
and with like a somewhat similar question, almost like a bucket list, do you have any like sh venues or festival shows that you would love to play?
Well, for me, still, my main one is the Greek Theater here in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
Um, that's whatever.
iconic.
Yeah, for whatever reason, that's always been the my main goal is to play at the Greek Theater. So
Yeah, I would love to play that. I mean,
Mhm.
festivals like to start with like Desert Days, maybe play Lollapalooza or Coachella. But really,
Yeah,
my biggest dream is to get over to Japan. I mean, first visit, but also to just perform over there, and that'd be incredible.
yeah, yeah, awesome. And with shows you guys have actually done, is there any live show, whether it's a full show or just like a moment, that's like your favorite or really sticks in your mind?
one of my favorite
I'll
was
just,
when we played in Barcelona. We got
yeah,
to
that was
open for a band
gonna
called
say.
what?
He
That's what
he
I
was
was
about to
gonna
say that as well. He was
Oh,
thinking the
okay.
same one.
Yeah, that was just a magical show because we just kind of showed up. We got to open for a really awesome band called Wooden Ships, and it was at a rad theater in Barcelona. And I just remember that kind of feeling like a moment of deep connection, both between like playing a nice room and the audience reaction right at that moment. And that one definitely sticks out. I mean, we probably have played over 500 or 600 shows at least, maybe even more than that. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
no, you guys are active on with the live shows and everything.
yeah, I mean, there's been quite a lot of magical ones from really small, intimate shows to shows with larger audiences. That one definitely pops into the mind immediately. We actually ran into a friend of ours at a festival we played just this weekend here in Echo Park, and he used to run something called SoCal Psych Out, and we hadn't seen him in years. But those were shows with like not that many people, maybe just maybe even 100 people or so, and those were always really magical shows out in the desert under the stars, really psychedelic. Um, yeah, I mean there's been a lot of really good shows.
Yeah, I'd say quite a number of the performances that we did in Europe were really special. We did this street festival in Malmo, Sweden, and it was like the day of the election. So there's just a ton of people, like either excited about the results or pissed off, but everybody was raging, and it was super fun. I mean, we were playing with Blank Tape, just a bunch of other bands.
Hmm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And in terms of like your own music, Dream Phases songs, do either of you have like a favorite song that you guys have made?
I'm not sure. I mean, the one that I feel really special about, at least, well, there's a couple on the new album that I connect with a lot, but the song Turn Away, for example, was a really special one. I don't know if I could pick a favorite song because each one has a
Yeah.
different connection, but that was really special, at least for like what's happening right now, because we wrote that song, Kaveen, Shane, and I from scratch in a room. Just it was our first time actually ever writing like that because we typically do write the seeds individually for the songs, at least the skeletal structure, and then bring it to
Yeah.
everybody. But that was the first time where we had absolutely nothing, and we ended up coming up with the full song within like 30 seconds. And that, or not,
Awesome.
sorry, not 30 seconds, 30 minutes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We came up with the whole song
That's a
before the
fast
song was
creative
even
process.
finished. Yeah.
Yeah.
30 minutes. But and that
But
that sort of inspired the rest of the sound of the album and what we did from there.
so have you tried to do more of that like in-person one room writing more, or is it still like going back to the uh like parcels here and there writing?
Yeah, that's the only time we've done that, and we haven't tried it again, but I mean, we definitely should. Yeah, the rest of the album was a little bit more like, here, I have this idea, or there still were, 4 or 5 songs in the album that were totally written individually, and then we then brought to the band to
Yeah.
to add parts and everything. But
Yeah,
I think what our goal is after we finish playing these shows over the next couple months, I think we're going to try to sit down and start writing whatever's going to be the next release. I actually have like a home studio now that we can rehearse and fully record at. So I think hopefully around like October we're going to start trying to get in the room together, and then we also have 2 newer members as well that we want to obviously incorporate and bring in to collaborate. So yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a combination of both moving forward. We'll probably be co-writing and coming up with ideas to bring into the group.
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah.
There's no one, right or wrong way to do any of this when it comes
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
making something.
It's
So
whatever works, and it's
exactly.
different artist to artist, band to band, even within bands, like different members have
Right.
different processes.
Yep.
And so, I mean, yeah, I've had a great time here. I feel like I've learned a lot about you guys and from you guys, but
Thank
just sort
you.
of a last question to leave things off. I know you have a good amount of shows coming up soon, but maybe it's those, anything else? What's sort of coming up for you guys, or what's next for Dream Phases?
Yeah, so right now we are focusing on these shows, and we're going to be going to Florida in a week to do a little run of shows. And then we have a couple other festivals. We actually just announced another LA show we're going to be doing at Zebulon in September. So yeah, right now the focus is on the live stuff, continuing to promote the album, and then around fall, hopefully we'll start, the seeds of writing whatever we're going to do
Yeah.
next.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for coming in today. Shane, I know we didn't get the video, but your presence was still felt. I loved all the input and everything. But
no
thank you
worries.
both for being here. I feel like I've learned so much, and yeah, if you're listening to this, go see them at shows if they're near you. Go listen to Fandom Idol, everything. Do you guys have anything else you want to shout out or promote here at the end? Anything?
Yeah, we're doing
No,
a festival in Long Beach this Saturday called Happy Sundays. Playing Port City Tavern at 9 p.m. So if any of you are local to that area, come say hi.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, well, thank you truly for coming on.
thank you so
And
much for having us.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, can't wait to hear whatever starts to come out in fall or whatever comes next.
I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for having us today.
Yeah, thank you.